Palmetto State Armory, and today I'm going to talk to you about head spacing. What is it, why is it important, and how do you measure it? So typically head spacing comes up in conversations about AK-47 rifles, so we're going to stick with those as the specific example in this video. Doesn't mean that head spacing only applies to AKs, but in large part that's when the conversation happens, so we're going to use that as our example today. So the easy way to understand head spacing is to think of it as a safe amount of breathing room, and it's measured between 1 and 11 thousandths of an inch. So head spacing is found when you put a round into the chamber of a rifle. You have your chamber, your round goes into it, and the bolt face sits against the back of the round, and in there is that allowable breathing room. Less than is dangerous, and more than is very dangerous as well. So you can't be on either side of that safety spectrum, as it were. We have to stay within that safety range between 1 and 11 thousandths of an inch. Technically speaking, head spacing is defined as a distance between the bolt face and a datum on the chamber shoulder as specified by institutions such as SAMI or NATO. That exact measurement will vary depending on the caliber of the rifle and the barrel you're using, but the safety threshold will not. So there is a bit of confusion about how to properly measure head spacing and what's good and what's bad. Typical way to measure it, and there's no problem here, buy yourself a set of go, no-go field gauges. So what's the difference in those three gauges? Well, obviously a go gauge means you're good to go, and a no-go gauge might seem like it means you're not good to go, but what it actually means is that this is not a brand new rifle. It's an easy way to think about it. The field gauge means it's unsafe to fire. Those gauges work by allowing you to pull the bolt back, put the gauge into the chamber, and then you're going to walk the bolt forward, let it get to that point where it stops and rests, and then put forward pressure on the bolt and see if it will seat behind that gauge and into the chamber. What you don't want to do is pull and release the bolt and let it slam that gauge, because it is possible that the bolt will slam the gauge and wedge it into the chamber and you'll get an improper reading. So don't do that. So a brand new rifle should close on a go and not close on a no-go. However, just because a rifle will close on a no-go doesn't mean it's unsafe to fire. A rifle that will close on a field gauge is unsafe to fire. So what's the difference there? Well, the no-go gauge indicates that you're no more than a certain point on that safety range of head spacing, and that's what's required of brand new rifles. Because as you use a rifle, on the AK specifically, the bolt lugs will wear against the front trunnion. You'll get a polish and a little bit of wear. You'll see the markings as you look at them, and that creates more of the breathing room, as we're calling our head spacing. So we know that we're kind of in a range of safety from 1 to 11, and a no-go gauge sits at a 7, because thousands and tens of thousands of rounds will create those thousandths of an inch. Once we get up to 11, where the field gauge is, if the bolt will close on that field gauge, it's no longer safe to fire. So again, a no-go gauge doesn't mean unsafe to fire, but it does mean that's not a new rifle. It's not meeting specs as a brand new rifle. Go is good, field gauge is an absolutely not. Makes sense? If you have more questions, put them in the comments. We have engineers that'll be glad to answer them, and they're a lot smarter than I am. You can find more info on our AK-47 rifles and more videos like this at palmettostatearmory.com.